occupation of mind, a great deal of exercise, moderation in eating and drinking, and especially to shun drinking at night. He said melancholy people were apt to fly to intemperance for relief, but that it sunk them much deeper in misery. He observed that labouring men who work hard and live sparingly are seldom or never troubled with low spirits. He again insisted on the duty of maintaining subordination of rank.
Sir, I would no more deprive a nobleman of his respect than of his money. I consider myself as acting a part in the great system of society, and I do to others as I would have them do to me. I would behave to a nobleman as I should expect he would behave to me, were I a nobleman, and he Sam Johnson. Sir, there is one Mrs. Macaulay in this town, a great Republican. One day when I was at her house, I put on a very grave countenance, and said to her, Madam, I am now become a convert to your way of thinking. I am convinced that all mankind are upon an equal footing, and to give you an unquestionable proof, madam, that I am earnest, here is a very sensible, civil, well-behaved fellow citizen, your footman. I desire that he may be allowed to sit down and dine with us. I thus, sir, showed her the absurdity of levelling doctrine. She has never liked me since. Sir, your levellers wish to level down, as far as themselves, but they cannot bear levelling up to themselves. They would all have some people under them. Why not then have some people above them?
I mentioned a certain author who disgusted me by his forwardness, and by showing no difference to noblemen into those whose company he was admitted. Johnson.
Suppose a shoemaker should claim an equality with him, as he does with a lord. How he would stare! Why, sir, do you stare? Says the shoemaker. I do great service to society. 'Tis true I am paid for doing it, but so are you, sir, and I am sorry to say it, paid better than I am for doing something not so necessary. For mankind could do better without your books than without my shoes. Thus, sir, there would be a perpetual struggle for precedence, were there no fixed invariable rules for the distinction of rank, which creates no jealousy, as it allowed to be accidental.
He said Dr. Joseph Warton was a very agreeable man, and his essay on the genius in writing of Pope, a very pleasing book. I wondered that he delayed so long to give us the continuation of it. Johnson.
Why, sir, I suppose he finds himself a little disappointed in not having been able to persuade the world to be of his opinion as to Pope.
We have now been favoured with the concluding volume, to which, to use a parliamentary expression, he has explained, so as not to appear quite so adverse to the opinion of the world concerning Pope, as was at first thought. And we all must agree that his work is a most valuable accession to English literature. A writer of deserved eminence being mentioned, Johnson said, Why, sir, he is a man of good parts, but being originally poor, he has got a love of mean company and low jocularity, a very bad thing, sir. To laugh is good, as to talk is good, but you ought no more to think it enough if you laugh, than you are to think it enough if you talk. You may laugh as many ways as you talk, and surely every way of talking that is practised cannot be esteemed. I spoke of Sir James Macdonald as a young man of most distinguished merit, who united the highest reputation at Eton and Oxford with the patriarchal spirit of a great Highland chieftain. I mentioned that Sir James had said to me that he had never seen Mr. Johnson, but he had a great respect for him, though at the same time it was mixed with some degree of terror. Johnson.
Sir, if he were to be acquainted with me, it might lessen both.
The mention of this gentleman led us to talk of the western islands of Scotland, to visit which he expressed a wish that then appeared to me a very romantic fancy, which a little thought would be afterwards realized. He told me that his father had put Martin's account of those islands into his hands when he was very young, and that he was highly pleased with it; that he was particularly struck with the St. Kilda man's notion that the High Church of Glasgow had been hollowed out of a rock, a circumstance to which old Mr. Johnson had directed his attention. He said he would go to the Hebrides with me when I returned from my travels, unless some very good companion should offer when I was absent, which he did not think probable, adding,
"There are few people to whom I take so much as you."
And when I talked of my leaving England, he said with a very affectionate air,
"My dear Boswell, I should be very unhappy at parting, did I think we were not to meet again."
I cannot too often remind my readers that although such instances of his kindness are doubtless very flattering to me, yet I hope my recording them will be ascribed to a better motive than to vanity, for they afford unquestionable evidence of his tenderness and complacency, which some, while they were forced to acknowledge his great powers, have been so strenuous to deny. He maintained that a boy at school was the happiest of human beings. I supported a different opinion, from which I have never yet varied, that a man is happier, and I enlarged upon the anxiety and sufferings which are endured at school. Johnson.
"Ah, Sir, a boy being flogged is not so severe as a man's having the hiss of the world against him. Men have a solicitude about fame, and the greater share they have of it, the more afraid they are of losing it. I silently ask myself, is it possible that the great Samuel Johnson really entertains any such apprehension, and is not confident that his exalted fame is established upon a foundation never to be shaken?"
He this evening drank a bumper to Sir David Dalrymple.
"As a man of worth, a scholar, and a wit, I have," said he, "never heard of him except from you, but let him know my opinion of him; for as he does not shew himself much in the world, he should have the praise of the few who hear of him."
Section 29.